Hey guys. See a few of you showing up. Going live from the TikTok shop this time, so bear with me. It's a little different. I can't see everything quite as well, so everybody okay? I think I have to figure off. So, making sure everybody. So we're a couple minutes early, so we'll wait a minute before we get started. I'm just curious before we get started. Um, we've got an echo going on here. Try this. How many of you guys have like or any of you have like marketing firms, or do you use marketing firms, self-employed? Just so I can get a perspective of where we're coming from. Anybody? Okay, well, I was thinking about maybe giving away one of the books from the session today. Um, Wondering about what kind of um, requirements I should have for that. What do you guys think? Is it a good idea to give away one of the books? What can I tell you about laundering and trafficking? Well, it's good to launder your clothes, and traffic can get bad during the holidays. Just kidding. Um, I mean, y y I'm not sure I understand, uh oh, and regarding trading, well, a lot, but today's session is gonna be about SEO. So, I mean, I can certainly do, I'm gonna have some sessions about trading, um, because there's really some, scamming that goes on regarding, the the trading, especially around crypto. Um, but, yeah, today's about SEO and, the, um, how AI has affected it, or I guess more specifically, how people think AI has affected it. 'Cause it really hasn't affected it the way people think it has. The last real update to affect SEO was back in the '90s. Um, but people, your marketing firms that are continuing to get affected, by the updates since then are being affected because they they didn't adapt to the update that came out in the '90s, and so they continue to get hammered. Um, uh, you're still talking about trading. Yeah. Well, if you're going to succeed in crypto, you pretty much have to be psychic because there's really no predictable patterns in crypto. Um, whereas when you day trading is what I do, and there's all kinds of predictable patterns for day trading. You do not have to be a psychic to make money in day trading. And regular trading, I mean, look at is for investing. I mean, look at Warren Buffett. He's not a psychic, and look at all the money he's made. Um, do I think that crypto could be used as federal government to default on its debts? No, because crypto is not uh, connected to the government. Crypto is totally uh, yeah, it's crypto is not like regular trading. It's not. Um, most crypto coins are not even secure, um, which is something most people don't realize. Crypto is really hacked. And it's yeah, um, but and I mean that's one reason why most scammers try to get you into crypto as quickly as they can because um, as soon as they can get you into crypto, nothing's traced. There's nothing you can do. Number one, and number two, as soon as they can get you into crypto, it's so easy to hack into all of your information. And not that and a lot of people think, when somebody's trying to hack your information, they're trying to steal your money. And you say, well, I already got my money. They're not trying to get your money. They're trying to get your identity. Your identity is where the value is. They want to get your identity and sell your identity. And then the next thing you know, they sell your identity to somebody. And um, why would somebody need to buy your identity? People think, oh, illegal immigrant. Not necessarily. What about somebody that, say, has a criminal history? You know, they're a felon. So they want a new identity so that they can, get a job, whatever. So they've got your identity and they're out there doing whatever. They get in an auto accident and, they're drunk driving. They get in an accident, they kill somebody, and now there's a warrant out for your arrest because there's, a manslaughter charge on you because you're in some other state, 4 states away, driving. Yeah, yeah, you got to be careful with crypto. I mean, you got to be careful with anything you do nowadays, electronically. But so anyway, let's get started with our topic today on SEO. They lied about SEO, and so I want to start. You know, one of my daughters, I, I had a bunch of kids, and one of my kids, she never got in trouble, just never got in trouble. And I asked her one time, I'm like, why is it that you never seem to get in trouble? And she said, well, I just figured out, when I was little, that it's a whole lot easier to just do what you expect than it is to, fight the rules and expectations. And if I do what's expected, there's always benefits anyway. And it's true because number one, she didn't get in trouble. And number two, she was always, you know, she got benefits. And, one thing, she was, uh, she was the only one that ended up getting a car when, um, when she was 16. I think there was another one we helped buy a car, but, and that one, didn't get in trouble very much either. And the same thing kind of holds true with online search. There's a couple schools of thought with online search, and you get most people that are out there doing their their SEO, their search engine optimization. And from the very beginning, search engine optimization was always, your keywords and your backlinks. And you go on the website that you're trying to rank and you load it full of your keywords and you do everything you could to get links pointing to the website. That's what they call backlinks. And yeah, fine. Well, when you know Google, when Google came out, you know, if you look at the origins of Google, because you had all these different search engines, and it used to be you type in a search query, you'd hit enter, and you go make yourself a pot of coffee while you waited for the search to come back. Google did something different called indexing, where they put a bunch of servers in the garage. They would do the most popular searches, store them on the servers, so that when you entered a search, those results were already on the servers, and they'd send them back to you. And it took seconds. They weren't fresh, but nobody cared about that. Those results went to you. Nobody cared. They were fast. So what Google was trying to do was get people wanted. What people wanted was instant results. Google, from the very beginning, gave people what they wanted. And from that premise, Google did something in the 90s that most people didn't realize. And in your Gmail, they did an authorization that when they updated their terms and conditions, you allowed them to read your emails. And everybody thought, oh, well, that's just for them to use for ads. And at first, that's what it was for. You started getting ads that were more targeted to what you were talking about in your emails. So if you sent an email to somebody about golf clubs, you'd start seeing ads about golf clubs. Well, it didn't end there, because what Google continued to do was they knew that if you were talking to your friend about golf clubs, that you were going to be searching about golf clubs. And so you were going to get your searches. Not only were your searches going to be tailored around golf clubs, but they would look at the searches of your friend that you were emailing as well. And they would find out from your emails and your friend's emails what kind of golf clubs you might like, so that they could better tailor your search results. In other words, Google was looking at communication. They were looking at conversations. They've been doing this since the 90s. Keep in mind, since the 90s, they were looking at conversation and communication more than they were looking at websites. They would look at websites only to try to find information that matched your conversation and communication. Meanwhile, marketing firms were still stuffing keywords and focusing on backlinks. So Google was constantly coming out with updates to try to clean up what the marketing firms were doing, because the marketing firms were kind of muddying up what Google was trying to do. Because marketing firms were trying to force Google's hand to show people more of what the marketing firm wanted the people to see and less of what Google wanted them to see. Because Google wants people to see what people are already talking about, the conversation. So this continued on and on and on until, with this fight back and forth between Google and marketing firms, until earlier this year, when Google rolled out the AI update. And with this AI update, Google was able to read the websites to find out if your website was answering the question that people were asking when they entered the search query. And if your website wasn't answering the question, then Google was interested in it. Because again, Google is trying to give the person searching what they're after. And they're looking at conversation and communication. They've been doing this since the 90s. Okay. This is not, but marketing firms, most marketing firms haven't caught on. And so this AI update just really threw marketing firms for a huge loop that they just didn't know what to do. So um, most marketing firms have been out there preaching that SEO is dead. And they're saying, well, but now now it's AI. People aren't searching on Google anymore. Now they're searching on, like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and things like that. Well, some of them are, but the thing of it is, people are they're still searching on Google, they're still searching on Siri, they're still searching on, you know, Google Voice, they're still searching on Alexa, they're still searching those places. But it's very, it's they're not going to find your website the way that marketing firms are trying to get you found. And the way that AI, like ChatGPT, is going to find you is by the same way that Google is looking. Does your website answer the question in the first place? Is the internet talking about your website? Is there conversation? So this goes all the way back to the 90s when Google changed the dynamic way back in the 90s to begin search dynamic through conversation. And most marketing firms never noticed. They never noticed. Google left them in the dark. Most, not all. Now, this is why in some areas I'm going to look at Google, because I've been, teaching since back in the 90s. Okay. Well, I haven't been teaching back in the 90s because I haven't been marketing program on, but I've been teaching that this has been going on since back in the 90s. And it's really not that complicated. If you're going to do SEO, you have to do a system that promotes conversation. And real SEO today doesn't have a whole lot to do with what you're doing on your website. Your website has to answer questions. It needs to be keyword based, meaning that, okay, you have to do your keyword research because most business owners don't even understand their keywords. So, meaning that they've never done the research to understand what their target customer is searching for when they're looking for that business. So you need to understand, maybe 3 to 5 keyword phrases that are your ideal customer. And when you're putting content on your website, that content needs to answer the questions that your ideal customer is searching for. And then you need to make sure that online in your videos and your social media posting that you're creating conversation. And it's nothing hard to do. It just between your video, your blog, your Facebook, X, TikTok, you're creating conversation going back and forth. And when you do that using your right keywords, then Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Siri, Alexa, all of them, they're not, it's no longer about being in first position. Because if you do this right, when somebody searches, you're going to dominate like 3 to 5 pages of content. And so, because you dominate and you're answering questions and there's conversation, all of a sudden you're the authority on this topic, on this question. You answer the question. And so, yeah, you show up in AI, you show up in, when somebody does a voice search, you are what comes up in the response, and you start showing up in search that people are doing clear across the country because, and locally, okay, because you are what is dominating search. You are now the expert in your field because you're not just in, a top position. You dominate. So it's not that hard. Now, here's the thing. These marketing firms that say, I can put you in top 3 in 14 days. When you see that, run. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. It is absolutely possible. But here's the thing. When you do that, it is, it's what's known as black hat. Okay. You can absolutely do it. Okay. But you're doing things that you're kind of tricking the system because you're doing things that are going to happen before Google actually recognizes them. Okay. That's the key. And they're usually going to use keyword phrases that are absolutely not relevant to you. Like, left-handed plumber in, whatever city, Um, the problem, they're, they're going to pick a keyword phrase, they're going to do it 14 days, boom, you're there. You're going to, wow, this is great. You're going to write the check. You're going to think everything's great. Here's the problem. When Google sees what happened in about 30 days, because in order to do that, they're going to use strategy that Google penalizes. Things that Google has specifically said, if you do this, we will penalize this website. Do they work? Oh, yeah, they work. They work. But Google knows that even though the internet it reacts, Google knows that it's a fake reaction. It's not real. Google wants real reactions. So when the bots come around and they recognize those things, like here's one of the things they'll do. They'll go on, they'll take your keywords, they'll go on the bottom of a page, say the page is white, they'll fill the page on the bottom of the page, they'll cram it full of your keywords with your keywords, right? But they'll leave the keywords white. So when somebody comes to look at the page, they don't see them because they're white. The bots can read them. And so they move it up. They'll fill code, like your CSS and stuff with keywords. So somebody reading it doesn't see them, but the bots see it. So the page comes up. They'll have server farms. They're just, they're servers that they've had for years. They'll they're junk websites. Um, some of them might be porn sites, it doesn't matter, but they're going to point to your website, and they're going to, you're going to have all these websites link, pointing to your website. So who cares? Your website goes up, right? Except that now you're going to get hit with these penalties. It might be a 3-year penalty that Google's going to say, we will not index your website for 3 years, meaning your website will not show up in search at all for 3 years. Is that a problem? Do you think so? What do you do now? You had low traffic, so you decided to throw somebody, a couple of grand, and usually it's like 5 grand they're going to charge you to get this kind of results. And you can't sue them because they did exactly what they promised to do. So now what? Um, and I see these ads. I see one of these ads almost every day. So, um, and I know this stuff works. I was at an event years ago, a tech event, and there was a big protest going on in Sarasota called Occupy Sarasota. And these guys, um, just a handful of guys, just at this tech event, just to prove a point, um, decided to have a little fun. And so here's this protest going on called Occupy Sarasota. And they decided to outrank that event. And because, I mean, they're doing all this kind of stuff for media attention, right? Within a matter of hours, because they had a challenge between these handful of guys of who it wasn't to outrank the event. It was between these guys of who could outrank each other for the term Occupy Sarasota. And it was for just random garbage. Just, for the term Occupy Sarasota. And within a matter of hours, that event was buried like 10 pages deep. You couldn't find it. And here they are. They planned this thing for months. They're down there doing this protest. They got news down there and everything. You could not even find the news channels that were covering that event. Buried. I mean, they were threatening lawsuits and everything. But I mean, nothing you could do. Technically, they didn't even do anything illegal, but it literally only took them a couple of hours to just, I mean, I don't know. It was like 3 to 5 guys just hacking into that, just competing for a term, Occupy. They didn't. I don't even know that they even realized there was an event. They just were pick the term, But um, so it's real stuff. Um, so you have to be careful what you're dealing with. My book that I've tagged in here in the live, it's I outline literally how to go about creating that conversation online. It's not hard. I do it for clients. I took a website a few months ago that had 0 traffic, and within 2 months they had 4,000 views a month. It's not hard. It's not hard at all. I'm not doing anything underhanded. It's just about creating content in the right way. So, well, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. So, if anybody's got any questions, I'm all ears.